everybody and welcome back to my channel. So today I wanted to make a video just talking about why I have been absent from pretty much all my social media over the last few months. I know that I've had periods on here that I have been absent as well as on my other social media, but I think I've spoken more about it on my other social media as opposed to on here. But I wanted to make a video talking about it because I feel like it's an important thing to discuss, especially at the moment with the current situation that's going on in the world. And you know, loss and bereavement is a really big issue, and it's a really prominent thing that so many people are dealing with and they've had to deal with over the last few months. And it's been in very unconventional circumstances where I think the grieving process and the process of saying goodbye to someone has been very different, and I think it's been very difficult for a lot of people. So I wanted to talk about it because I too have experienced bereavement recently and it's really affected me. I have experienced loss before. I lost my close friend Charlotte to brain cancer a few years ago, and I have lost people in my family before, but it's a process that I've never really dealt with before, so it's very hard for me to process what's happened. I don't feel like I've started to properly grieve yet, and I feel like it's going to take me a while to work through how I'm feeling. We've had 2 losses in our family and I wanted to talk about them because it's a big thing to happen, and both losses have meant a lot to me. So back in May this year, the 24th of May 2020, I lost my pet dog, Freddie, my Cavalier, of 12 years. He was 12 years old and he passed away due to congestive heart failure, and he went into cardiac arrest on that morning, that Sunday morning, and he passed away. And then on the 24th of August, again 2020, my nan passed away in hospital due to a number of health issues that she had. She had issues with her kidneys, and they found a mass on her pancreas which turned out to be pancreatic cancer, and she died. And both of these losses have really affected me. I know some people who've never had a dog or never had a pet might disagree, but Freddie was part of my family just the same way as my nan was, and they both meant a great deal to me, and it's been very hard. So Freddie, my Cavalier, he got sick about 6 months ago. He started to get sick. He started to cough. He started to have periods where he would fall over and kind of faint. He wouldn't lose consciousness, but he started to fall over, and we knew that these were symptoms of his heart. Anyone who's ever had a Cavalier, King Charles Spaniel, will know that that particular breed of dog, that one of their defaults is that they have heart problems. It's just one of their shortcomings, and we knew that this was a possibility, and we took him to the vet, and he was then put on some medication to help. He was put on diuretics and some medication to strengthen his heart, and it helped, and he seemed to be doing okay, and he was slowing down. He was getting old because he was a 12-year-old dog, and for a Cavalier that's good. And you know, he was an old dog, and then he started to get more tired. We had to invest in a pram for him to take him out for walks because he just didn't have the energy to walk for long periods of time. So we wanted to facilitate him and to make him comfortable. And then in May he started to get sick, and then the last week of his life he slept constantly, he had no energy, he fainted several times, he had a lot of fluid build up on his stomach, which turned out to be that his kidneys were finding it hard to be able to flush away the fluids. And we took him to the vet. They had said that there's a possibility he might, you know, have to be put to sleep, and we knew that. But we were really reluctant to do that because obviously this was happening around the height of COVID and when lockdown was still really strongly in place, and vets in the UK, I don't know about other countries, but here in the UK vets were not allowing people to go in with their pets if they were having to be put to sleep because of COVID restrictions, so that was absolutely traumatizing to think we'd have to say bye to him without us being there. But the vet gave him a really strong injection of diuretics to get rid of the fluid, and they said that they were going to give him that chance to see if that would help, because they could see how anguished we were. We took him home, and he seemed to be okay for another couple of days, and then he went back to having the fluid build up, and he was again really tired. He was constantly thirsty. It got to the point where I had to put water on my hand for him to lick it off, and he had to have a syringe, and we had to carry him downstairs to go to the toilet. He'd still eat, but he would only want to be fed small portions of things like lamb, because he just didn't have the energy to sort of sit up and eat, and he was just so tired. But it was hot, so we thought maybe the heat's just affecting him, and we gave it a bit more time. And then one morning we got up and he was just in the same position that he'd been the night before, and that's not like Freddie. He would get up and he would move around and play musical chairs, and he'd, you know, move to different positions, and we knew that he wasn't doing well. And then he fainted again, and he started to breathe really strange, and his gums went blue, and we knew that we had to do right by him, so we got in the car to take him to the vet. And on the way there, he died. My mum was holding him, and she said he feels like he's having a heart attack. And then I looked round and I saw him, and I held his paws, and my mum was holding him, and he just went. You know, it was very quick. He went within a couple of minutes. He stopped breathing. He went into cardiac arrest, and he went. And I'm grateful that he decided to go on his own terms, and he felt like he was ready to go, and he had made that choice on his own, because we knew that otherwise we would have to allow him to be put to sleep without us being there. There was no other choice. We had to do right by him. We couldn't allow him to suffer. Losing an animal, losing a pet is awful under any circumstance, but not being able to be with them in that final few minutes of their life is just, I can't even fathom. So I think Freddie knew that, and he decided that he was ready to depart this world, and he wanted to go, and he wanted to go on his own terms. So I took comfort in that. I mean, there wasn't a lot of comfort to take. You know, he was a 12-year-old dog. He'd been with me for 12 years, almost half my life. And you know, he was a very special dog to us all. He brought a lot of happiness to our lives. He was the most charismatic, rambunctious dog. He was full of life, full of noise. And to just see him decline and just go from that within the space of a week to just being just a quiet dog who had no energy to bark at squirrels anymore, or do anything, or to run around the house chasing us when we had some toast in our hand, because he was so driven for food. You know, he would be on your case if you had food and he wanted it. He was such a charismatic, cheeky dog. I've never known a dog to be so mischievous, and he was like Unity's best friend. My guide dog Unity, when she first came to us, he really did bring her out of her shell and bring out more of her quirky personality, and you know, he was a great dog for her, and they were best buddies, and she misses him, we all miss him. It's been 3 months, and you know, it feels like a lifetime since he was last here, even though it's been only 3 months. And you know, honestly, there's so many times where I think I can still hear him barking or running around the house. He had really like little paws, but he would, you know, run like this. We used to call it his tap dance. He was just so full of energy, and he had so much personality. He was a lovely dog, and he meant the world to us all. So to not have him, especially over lockdown when we were all stuck in the house, we couldn't really go out, was horrible, because the house just felt so empty without him and so quiet. So Freddie passed away, and then my nan, so around the same sort of time that Freddie died, we went over to my nan's to help her to find her shielding letter, because she was supposed to be shielding having diabetes and being, you know, the age she was. She passed away 5 days after her 84th birthday, so she was 84. So she needed that help, so we went to try and find her letter, because she lost things and she forgot things, and we wanted to make sure that she had the help she needed, because my dad's a key worker, so we didn't want to be leaving her in a situation where she didn't have the help she needed. we went there and we just realised that she was not in a mental state or a physical state to be able to, you know, not have any help anymore. So we had to organise getting social carers to come in and assist her twice a day. So she had a carer come in twice a day, and then my dad would go in and get her things, and I would call her up every other day and ask her if she wanted me to make her an order online for any groceries, or to order in things like if she wanted to take away, if she wanted some food, and I would do that for her. Then we noticed that she didn't want to eat as much, and we would go and buy her food and it would still be in the fridge a week later. She'd always been a woman who loved her food, and she's always loved her food. She'd always, you know, make things. She'd make her own smoothies, she'd make her own fudge. She loved cooking and she loved food, always was a big foodie. She used to go on food tasting coach tour trips, and she was always a foodie person. The fact that she wasn't eating anymore and she'd lost quite a lot of weight was a concern, because she'd always been quite a buxom lady. She loved food, so that was a concern. And then one day, 3 months later, my nan's carer came in to see her and found her on the floor. She'd sort of fallen over that afternoon, because she went in the morning and she was okay, and then the afternoon she went in and she'd fallen over. So we had to, you know, organised getting her an ambulance. She went to the hospital and they were doing tests on her. At this point my dad couldn't go in to see her or bring her anything because of COVID. She had to be there on her own, and we were ringing her up every day to find out what we could. And they were doing tests. She didn't really want to eat a lot. She was not able to drink as much water, so she was very dehydrated, and they discovered that she was very badly jaundiced. She had jaundice very badly. They came back and said to us that she had a blockage on her kidney, and then after doing some scans they discovered that she had a mass on her pancreas, and they couldn't do any in-depth tests to determine. She was too weak for that, but they highly suspected that it was pancreatic cancer, and they gave her medication to try and help, but she was finding it hard to breathe by this point. And then they told us, they called my dad and said it's going to become palliative care. But by this point, because she'd been tested for COVID and she wasn't COVID, so she wasn't in a COVID ward, they had changed the policies, so one person could go in to see her, providing that they were not symptomatic and they didn't have any symptoms. But my dad's a key worker, so he had been tested, so he went in to be with her, and that was the way it was for a few days. One day I FaceTimed her and had a chat with her, and just spoke to her about what she was doing. And then the day after I got a call from my dad to say that she died, and it was really sudden. And we didn't think that was going to happen. We thought she was going to go in, have some tests, maybe have some fluids and come home, because she was always a really strong woman. She lived life on her own terms. That's who she was. She was independent and she valued her independence, and I respected that. You know, to have them say she's died and she'd gone was just so strange, because I honestly thought she was going to live till she was 100. I thought she was going to get a telegram from the Queen. You know, she's always come back from any illness that she's had. She's always bounced back. I'm still in shock. I don't really feel like I've started to even begin to process the reality of what's happened, because it's been very difficult. You know, we were lucky that my dad could be with her and see her and actually spend time with her in her last days, but I know for a lot of people, you know, people haven't been able to do that. They haven't been able to say goodbye to their family members over this period, and that absolutely breaks my heart, because, you know, I sit here and I think I couldn't say goodbye, I couldn't go and see her, I couldn't spend that time with her to be with her in her passing, and I feel robbed. But then I feel very selfish, because my dad was there and my dad could be with her, and I could speak to her because he was able to FaceTime me, and I know so many people didn't have that, so I feel very selfish thinking like that, because I know so many people didn't have the opportunity to say goodbye to their family members, and I'm sure it's really had such a profound impact on many people's mental health, not being able to see their family members and not being able to be with them as they passed away, which is, you know, something we all have really over, you know, for many years taken for granted. Before this pandemic hit us, we were able to be with our family members and to say goodbye to them before they passed away, and you know, that's all you want. You know, it's tragic enough losing someone, but to not be able to say goodbye is horrible. So my heart goes out to anyone who's lost someone over this period and who's not been able to be with them. I'm so sorry. I genuinely am so sorry that you didn't have that experience and you weren't able to do the normal thing that someone does when someone's passing away. I don't really feel like I've been able to start to properly grieve yet, because we've had so much to sort out. You know, we had to sort through her belongings in her flat, we had to sort through everything, you know, all of her possessions, you know, her life practically, and decide what we were keeping, what we were donating to charity. And that was really hard. My nan loved to buy things, she loved crafting, she loved embroidery, she loved to make cards. That was one of her most, you know, loved thing that she loved to do in her later years, and she had so many unused crafting materials that she'd bought that she couldn't use, and I decided to donate them. So we donated them to some charities, so we halved everything that she had accumulated. She had a lot of stuff. Half of it went to a charity called Bring Me Sunshine, which helps older people who are dealing with isolation in my local area, and another one is called the Arts Network, which is another local charity to me who help people with mental health issues through art projects and art therapy. So we donated the products that she had to them, and they were very grateful, and I'm sure that they'll get a lot of use, because that's what my nan would want. She helped so many charities over her life. She was a secretary for the MS Society, she was a secretary for the Woodland Trust as a volunteer as well after she retired. She worked for a very long time. She worked her whole life to support her family, and she still did fundraising even when she was retired. She, like I said, she worked for the MS Society as a secretary, for the Woodland Trust. She did loads of fundraising. She donated a lot to charities like Guide Dogs and the PDSA, and just other charities. She would always give to charities. Even if she saw an appeal at Christmas, she would give. She was a very giving person. She would give not only her time, but also her, you know, what money she could. She would donate, and she had a very giving soul, and she would give her time unreservedly to people that she cared about, and to causes that mattered to her. You know, when I was growing up, she spent so much time with me because I was ill. My parents had to work, so she would often come and look after me when I was ill, and I spent a lot of my childhood with her. She was very funny, but she was funny without meaning to be. Like, she would get herself into such folly. She was very independent. She valued her independence above anything else. She would go on coach trips and go on coach tours and go on foreign holidays on her own. She would do loads of things herself, but she was very content with her own company, and she enjoyed it. She'd always bring back little trinkets of her travels. She was very good with a needle and thread. She learnt how to embroider and to make clothes. She was a child who grew up in the war, so that was a very important skill to her generation, and she made many things over the course of my life. She made me a dress for the Queen's Jubilee fete that I had at my school when I was a child, and it won first prize in the fancy dress competition, so I won the prize for that. And it was beautiful. It was made by herself. She made me a blue dress, a cape and a crown, and she also made a matching outfit for my teddy. And she was incredibly talented at card making. She used to write poems. She was a secretary for all of her life, and she learnt shorthand. And then when she retired, she then became a secretary for the MS Society, which she did for many years, and she made many friends through that. My nan was a very, very supportive woman, and going for her thing, she had every single newspaper cutting that I was in, every single campaign or disability work that I did, or every article I wrote for a magazine or a newspaper, any journalistic work, she had it stored away. She had so many pictures. She even wrote a poem about me that I found, and it makes me sad that, you know, this woman who played such a big role in my life is now gone, and I'm never going to be able to call her and speak to her and hear her make her jokes, or to be able to listen to what she had to say about her trip away. I'm never going to be able to have a conversation with her about an episode of Time Team. She loved Time Team, she watched it non-stop, and she'd always tell me exactly what happened. If I hadn't watched it, I wouldn't need to. I'd just have a conversation with her and she'd tell me what happened. I'm going to miss all of that. But I don't feel like I've properly started to grieve yet, because I've not had a chance to. You know, when I lost Freddie, there was none of this. You know, he was cremated, we got his ashes back, and then the grief just started. But losing someone this close, you have to do a lot to be able to organise a funeral and to tie up the loose ends of their life. So I've not really been able to start to process my feelings and work through my grief yet, and I don't know how that's going to pan out. I don't know how I'm going to feel. I wanted to make this video because I wanted to explain how I'm feeling, and just so you know, if I do have periods of absence on here, why that is. But also, they both meant a lot to me for different reasons, and I wanted to make a video to mark their passing because they meant something to me, and I didn't want to just carry on as normal and not explain how I'm feeling and what's going on, because I don't know how I'm going to feel in the next few weeks or months. I don't. I wanted to make this video because if you've lost someone recently, it's okay to take time out for yourself. It's okay to say that you need to take time to work on yourself. And it's okay to be kind to yourself. And my nan was a big advocate for that. She was a big advocate for self-care and doing what you wanted to do and doing the things that you loved. Whether that was going away for a trip, whether that was going and treating herself to lunch with her friend, or whether that was just sitting, as she would call it, at Stoppertone Bay, which was her term for the bath, and using lots of lotions and potions and making herself a coffee with a bit of brandy in it and having a couple of biscuits. Then she would do it, and she would treat herself. She loved to buy decorations, Christmas decorations, which I now have, which I will cherish, and they will be going on my tree this year. And my nan once said to me, when I was being bullied and I was in a very low place, and she said to me, I love myself, and that's what matters. I love myself, and I don't care what other people think of me. So the most important thing in life is for you to have love and respect for yourself, because if you have love and respect for yourself, then other people will too. And I've taken that over the years, and I still remember it now, and I still remember her saying that to me. That's really all I wanted to say. I just felt like it was important to make this video and to talk about it and to mark the passing of Freddie, my lovely, naughty, rambunctious, cheeky cavalier who I'll forever miss. I'll forever miss not having his dog hair on my bed. I'll forever miss him running up the stairs chasing me when I had a piece of toast in my hand, or missing him weeing up my plants. And I'll miss my nan. I'll miss her funny ways, I'll miss her funny turn of phrases, I'll miss her coming back from Belgium and bringing me half a ton of chocolate seashells or bien biscuits. But I'll forever have their memories, and I'll forever remember them as they were in life and how they touched my life and the relationship I had with them and what they meant to me. Thank you so much for watching this video. My love to all of you, and my love to anyone who has lost someone over this period and who is currently grieving for that person. My thoughts are with you, and my thoughts are always with you. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye.